Donkey Kong Country was more than a hit, it was a phenomenon. And by 1995, it was on like, well, you know. For perhaps the only time in the history of Nintendo, Mario took a step back, at least in the West. Now don't get me wrong, he was always Nintendo's mascot, but for the 2 years between DKC's release and the Nintendo 64, you'd be forgiven for doubting that. When I went to AOL keyword Nintendo, it wasn't Mario who greeted me. And look at this, a Super Nintendo bundle that included 4 classic Mario titles, but it was the 5th game that took top billing. Given what a sensation they had here, it would have been almost simple for Rare to make a sequel. Let those famous graphics work their magic, put in some new characters and mechanics, and patch over DKC's holes. It's a tried and true approach. It's how most series do things, and there's nothing wrong with it. It works. Even putting the graphics aside, DKC was an extremely good game. A sequel that followed the formula could have been great, but Rare was no longer content to create a product that was merely great. Instead, they made Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. It's been a year since DK and Diddy chased the Kremlings off of Donkey Kong Island and took back the Banana Horde. But K. Rool has been licking his wounds, and he's got a new plan. He catches Donkey Kong sleeping and leaves behind a ransom note. If you yellow-bellied, land-loving Kongs want DK back, you'll have to hand over the Banana Horde. Yeah, the Kremlings are pirates now. When the Kongs discover this plot, Cranky wants to acquiesce. Not that he's past his prime, he just want to be caught dead in a game with bonus levels and end bosses. Hey, you're leaning on the fourth wall a little hard there, Cranky. Might take you a decade or two, but you'll come around. But the point stands. Without Donkey Kong, there really isn't anyone with the credibility to take down K. Rool. Except, Diddy knows that DK would hate to lose his horde again. And more than that, this could be a chance to prove himself. Diddy was a sidekick last time, and also ran, dare I say, a wannabe. But if he could save Donkey Kong and thwart K. Rool's scheme, he'd be a hero in his own right. On the surface, this seems like a pretty typical excuse plot for a video game. The villains kidnap someone, the main character has to rescue him. But remember, Donkey Kong was the face of the first game, and one of the most famous names in the industry. Diddy, on the other hand, was Rare's creation, and his story mirrors theirs. Rare needed to prove that they weren't a one-hit wonder. Eschewing DK's star power wasn't just risky, it was subversive. Speaking of which, Diddy won't be alone. Dixie Kong makes her debut and becomes the second playable character. In the first game, Diddy might have been the designated second banana, but he was also the flat-out better character in all but a handful of situations. He was more nimble than DK, he held barrels as a shield, he ran a lot faster. There's rarely a time when I don't prefer him. From a gameplay perspective, Dixie inherits a lot of Donkey Kong's attributes. She's not as quick as Diddy, and she carries barrels overhead with her ponytail. How are you doing that? The level design and enemy placement allows for a lot more situations where this overhead style comes in handy. But of course, most famously, Dixie has got that helicopter-y hair thing. This controllable glide makes things so much easier. There are plenty of places only she can go, and plenty of shortcuts only she can take. But don't think this makes her partner superfluous. This is distinctly Diddy's game, and his kinetic, frantic speed is at the center of this design, much more so than the other games in the trilogy. Having that second character feels even less like a free hit. Diddy and Dixie also have a team throw that can be used to reach hidden areas and take down some tough enemies. The two playable characters each have their own strengths. They each have scores of situations where one might be preferable, and they complement each other incredibly well. I mean, they should. They are dating. I forgot to mention that. After Candy Kong was so, exaggerated, you might not have expected Rare to pull this off. But Dixie is awesome. I mean, to this day, she's my favorite heroine in gaming, and Rare knew exactly what they were doing. That she's Diddy's girlfriend, that she's a girl at all, is an attribute. It's secondary to her character, and that's the kind of thing that still might be pretty subversive. Determined, insistent, and maybe a little more scared than they're letting on, the pair set out to rescue their big buddy, but it won't be easy. Donkey and Diddy had the home field advantage in DKC, but K. Rool's retreated to the Kremling homeland, Crocodile Isle. The uneasy, unfamiliar sense of infringing on enemy territory permeates throughout, and combined with the pirate motif, it gives DKC 2 an edge that the first game didn't have. It's generally darker, yes, you hear that all the time, but I don't feel like that conveys how imaginative Crocodile Isle is. The Kremlings are a bizarre bunch, and their island reflects that. pirate ships, castle fortresses, crystal mines, and these gorgeous roller coasters with fireworks illuminating the mountains. I have a thing for video game carnivals, don't I? The point is, Rare pulled off something really impressive. By implementing such a menacing theme, they could use more interesting and fanciful stage tropes without mitigating the sense of atmosphere that was so important to the first game. The level design itself also became more varied. DKC was all about moving left to right. In Diddy's Conquest, you run left to right in the first level. Classic, simple and clean. But in the second stage, you're climbing a massive rigging structure. Vertical stage design that gives Dixie a chance to shine. The third stage throws in water, and now you're zigzagging through the depths of the ship. It's tense and claustrophobic and complex. This variety carries through the whole game, and every level is so well defined. Even individual stage gimmicks tend to be a lot better designed, giving stages distinction without taking away from the core gameplay. The Kremlings have never been so many. Clobbers pop out of seemingly innocuous barrels. Cutlass makes you parry his sword. Clingers harry your ascent, and zingers are absolutely terrifying. Seriously, just hearing that low droning buzz still sends chills through me. Diddy's Conquest strikes an impressive balance. Compared to its predecessor, it's more fair and yet far more challenging. But hey, the Kongs still have plenty of help. Rambi and Ingard return, and both of them can now charge forward, breaking through hidden walls and piercing enemy defenses. Glimmer takes over lighting duties, and Clapper similarly shows up as a gimmick to cool off lava and freeze over water. Espresso and his weird hitboxes are gone, and in his place, Squawks can properly take to the skies. Winky, sadly, appears only in the back of the Monkey Museum and is replaced by Rattly. Winky's design might not have worked well with a super jump, and I suppose Rattly's coil is a lot more visually precise. But Squitter more than makes up for losing Winky. He's the only spider I've ever liked, and he's so much fun. He can't jump on enemies, so he fires webs to take him down instead. And he can deploy web platforms that make his stages feel completely different from the others. Animal Buddies in DKC were a lot of fun, but they had some setbacks. They stuck a little too close to Yoshi's formula. You could lose them, and that meant that the levels couldn't be crafted with the guarantee that they would be there. Early on in DKC 2, when you're still getting your bearings, they operate in much the same way. But then you find one of these, animal barrels. Hop in, and instead of just riding an animal, Diddy and Dixie will transform. In a game that doesn't focus on traditional power-ups, this makes so much more sense than the Yoshi approach. Combined with signposts that revert the Kongs back to normal, Rare could now theme challenges, bonus rooms, or even entire stages around the unique attributes the Animal Buddies bring. They're a much stronger aspect of the design this time around. And speaking of which, let's talk collectibles. The extended Kong family makes the trek to Crocodile Isle with you, but they want to be compensated for their time. Banana coins let you pay them for their services. Swinky runs a trivia game where you can earn lives. Candy's save point is hilariously replaced by Cranky's wife, a sweet old grandmother type named Brinkley. Funky is still a dude! And Cranky provides his signature humor, gives you clues to where bonus stages are, and best of all, his hints extend past World 1 this time. In the first game, bonus stages were just that, a bonus. Secret areas where you got some extra stuff. But now, not only are they hidden more cleverly, they're achievements unto themselves. You'll need to overcome specific challenges. Navigate to the end, destroy all the enemies, collect all the stars. This is so much more interesting than just running through a cave and getting some bananas. Every time you pass one, you'll get a Crim coin. And thanks to that, there's actually a real purpose to bonus rooms, because for every 15 Crim coins, you'll be able to bribe a Kremling turncoat named Klubba to gain access to the Lost World. It contains some of the toughest stages in the game and leads to the true ending. The location of the bonus stages are always hinted at. The camera, the banana trail, something will clue you in. But that's not always the case when it comes to the video game hero coins. There's one in every stage, placed by Cranky to test just how serious Diddy is about making a name for himself. And this being Cranky, they tend to be in the douchiest, most non-intuitive places imaginable. It's very oblique, and I love them. I mean, if hero coins factored more into the end goal of the game, I might criticize them as a fairly transparent attempt to sell more strategy guides. And honestly, they probably were that to an extent, but they're also a reward for the truly dedicated players who want to ensure that Diddy is a better character than whoever this guy is. And if the levels themselves were going to be so much more varied, the soundtrack would have to follow suit. David Wise returns to provide the score, and I love this man. He absolutely outdoes himself. Cinematic soundtracks in movies or TV shows are usually meant to evoke or enliven a mood. Video game music, on the other hand, was much more concerned with providing a strong, sharp melody to highlight the action, especially back then. But David Wise expertly integrates the best of both styles, and it is absolute genius. There's plenty I haven't even talked about here. The bosses are so much more complex and fun. The graphics are a huge step up, and I still think they look good. I love the way the in-level and death music changes depending on the stage, the animation that plays when you stand still in a team-up, the way you can see DK Island in the map background. I love Bramble Scramble. Bramble Scramble is a stage that comes about halfway through the quest. It's the point where the developers stop screwing around. It's one of the longest, toughest, most frustrating stages in the entire game. The slightest wrong move will kill you. But the music evokes something totally different. It starts out slow and serene. It helps you stay calm and focused while you're building the skills you'll need to make it out of here. And eventually, it all builds to a dramatic crescendo that perfectly encapsulates how it feels to overcome such a seemingly impossible challenge. This music should be such a contrast, yet it's a perfect fit. Yeah, that's a fitting metaphor. You never would have found yourself making your way through a honey-filled beehive on the back of a giant googly-eyed spider in the first game. DKC was so concerned with maintaining a sense of realism. But in DKC 2, this is all natural. Yeah, why wouldn't this be here? Things as innocuous as magical rising water, as disruptive as animal transformation barrels, and as awesome as Dixie spawning a guitar. The biggest reason Diddy's Conquest is so much stronger than DKC is because it's so much more of a video game. Now, this is the point in the video where I apply some subjectivity and lay out the game's flaws. But you know what? I can't do that here. Any point I could raise would be picking at the tiniest of nits. I have no critique. And I'll admit, that might be the nostalgia talking. I'd been playing video games for over a year by this point, but truth be told, I wasn't much of a gamer. I was young, and I would just use cheat codes or a Game Genie to get through them instead of actually getting good. But this game was brand new, there were no cheats like that, so I had to actually play it. It took my friends and I more than 6 months to get to K. Rool. We'd be stuck on a single stage for weeks. There'd be parts I was better at, parts they were better at. To this day, my Super NES controllers creak because of this game. It was a frustrating, monumental struggle the whole way through, but it made the victories so much sweeter. This was Diddy's Conquest, but it was mine too, and when I finally knocked K. Rool into the Kremling Force Power and sank Crocodile Isle, it was honestly one of the most fulfilling moments of my life to that point, because for the first time ever, I had earned the right to win. Every year since then, I've played through it at least once. It's an evergreen game for me, and it never loses its shine. Sonic the Hedgehog was the reason I wanted to be a gamer, but until I played this, I was just that, a wannabe. It would have been so easy to just build on DKC's very solid core mechanics, but Rare went so much further beyond. This actually is the creme de la creme of action platformers. It's as close as anything's ever come to being that mythical perfect game, and it's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear that phrase. Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, is one of the most remarkable video games ever made, and Rare was just getting started. If you've enjoyed my work, you ought to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, because I would really love to have more interaction with you guys. But the most wonderful, most gratifying thing you could do if you've liked this would just be to share it wherever the people are. And I know not everybody has that kind of time, so it'd also be a big help if you could give that like button a click. Likes raise this channel's YouTube hero rankings, or something like that. You can also gain early access to every video I make, or even get a video on the subject of your choice by backing the Geek Critique on Patreon. I've got my first sponsored episodes coming right up. In the meantime, go back and watch all my other episodes. And you keep geeking, I'll keep critiquing. Thanks for watching.